everyone. It's Melissa Peters here with DORN Companies, coming to you pain-free live to help you live pain and injury-free. Thanks for tuning in today for another episode of the Injury Prevention Academy, brought to you by DORN Companies, the country's leading wellness-based pain management and injury prevention company, committed to reducing cost of healthcare, workers' compensation, and lost productivity, resulting in over $100 million in savings over the last 20 years for our clients. Joining us today is Jason Lucas. Jason is a dynamic speaker, content creator, and author. Gifted with the ability to make safety simple, he uses it to provide short safety lessons in hashtag social media safety minute content and a podcast on Safety Justice League. So, Jason, thanks for joining me today. How are you doing over there?
Oh man, I'm doing outstanding, Melissa. Thank you so much for having me on today.
I'm very excited to talk with you. We get to talk about a variety of topics, including your book, as I noted that you're an author that I got the chance of reading from cover to cover. So,
Oh, nice. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, well,
yeah,
good, good. I hope it didn't take you longer than like an hour. It's a small book, but I think there's some good stuff in it.
it was great. I look forward to jumping into it later. But to start, I know, throughout your career, you've worked in some high hazard environments. So,
Yeah.
refinery, chemical plants, machinery, oil and gas. So, I want to talk about some of the unique challenges that present themselves when talking about high hazard industries and some of the common safety issues you've seen throughout your career.
Yeah, the high risk industries, there has to be a diligence there on the part of management and on the part of safety, to keep people focused. The problem is when you face a high hazard each and every day, it becomes less and less of a hazard in your own mind. So you have to keep cognizant continually of what you're facing, and it's really good for management and safety to be able to be a part of keeping that cognizance there, that we're continually reminding them of the hazards that they're actually truly facing each and every day. And I think one of the hazards that they face most often, that's probably not talked about nearly enough, is fatigue. When you're working in these high hazard industries, they're also high hours worked industries, which can cause that additional fatigue. I can recall, before I even got into safety, when I was still in operations, being a hydroblaster and working night shift for like months on end with no day off. And there were days that I got like all the way back to my house and couldn't even remember how I got there. I couldn't remember any stoplights. I like basically woke up in my driveway. And that was, I mean, and I'm definitely telling nobody, I'm telling everybody, don't do that. That's a very don't work those types of hours. Don't work that type of fatigue, because that was a very unsafe thing for me to do. So we have to be really careful to make sure that we're keeping an eye on the fatigue of our workers and the fatigue of our potential drivers. One of the good parts of a quality driver safety program is really touching on fatigue, touching on the Smith system keys and things that they need to be looking out for day in and day out. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. And so one of the offerings that DORN has within our suite is a service called Alert Meter, which really
Ah.
is geared towards cognitive resources and testing, someone beforehand, whether they're showing outside of their baseline. So in your experience, did you have particular protocols to check for fatigue when someone's arriving to the job or checking in with them throughout the day?
Well, there was a lot of training on part of the supervision and management to be on the lookout for specific signs. I wish we would have had some sort of tech like you're talking about, to where we can just have a meter, have something that would give us an alert if there's something that is causing that fatigue or showing that fatigue. We didn't have that when I was in operations. This is 20 years ago. That type of tech wasn't out yet. That's why I'm super excited about the tech that's coming out in safety, because things like that are becoming available. But back then it was more of like, hey, these are the signs of somebody who's getting fatigued. You're looking for speech patterns. You're looking for just visual indicators that they're not quite there. And fatigue symptoms are very similar to inebriation symptoms, which is why fatigue is such a scary thing, and especially in high risk areas.
Yes, and did you ever have, not to jump too much down tragedy lane, but was there ever an instance in your career where you saw fatigue lead to an injury or a workplace incident?
Yeah, I mean, fatigue mixed with heat stress is a really dangerous combination. And the industry that I was working was we were hydroblasting on the inside of tanks. And so if you're doing this for long term in high temperature environments, your fatigue occurs faster. And then heat stress symptoms occur faster. And yeah, I mean, I've seen more than one worker be overcome by fatigue because of the workload that they're taking. Fortunately, we were able to, in all those cases, there wasn't any severe or permanent issues or impairments because of it. But I think that was just because of the diligence of supervision at the time.
Understood. And you mentioned drivers, and I have to say, so my dad was a truck driver at one point in his life, and I remember. So this was before there was, more technological ways of doing a logbook. So he had a
Yeah.
manual logbook, and you can they tell you to not drive longer or do a certain
He,
miles, but the logbook was fallible. So what do drivers?
wait. Admit he had two logbooks. Come on,
Yes,
we can just be honest. I mean, I
yeah.
used to drive. He had a logbook that was the official one that if he got pulled over, this is the one he showed. Then he had the logbook to track his hours because he wanted to make sure he was getting paid.
Exactly. So, in this day and age, are there, talking about technology, are there ways that drivers now are better monitored so that they can be given that nudge of, hey, man, you really need to pull over and take a nap?
Yeah, I think with the bringing on of the requirement of ELDs, I think that's really created a. I mean, just like the written logbook, I'm sure there's ways that drivers are getting around these ELDs. There's probably logins that they use officially with the login that they use unofficially. I don't know. I'm out of the driving game for
Yeah.
the most part, but I do know it's easier now to monitor the hours being worked because you get sent an alert. And so I mean, because it's monitoring. Some states have it where you can drive a certain distance. Some states have it by time, and all of this is being monitored with GPS. So it's sending those alerts back to companies to let them know, hey, this guy's getting close.
Okay.
He's getting close to being on the road too long. You might want to give him a call. It sends alert, hey, he's past his time that he's allowed. So, and then what it'll do is it sometimes they'll have to call in and get a variance or a passcode to be able to even drive again. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool tech out there now for drivers keeping them safe.
So, speaking of, technology, I know that you and three of your colleagues founded the Safety Justice League that also comes with a podcast. And want to know, what was your motivation for this, and what's the purpose of the Safety Justice League?
Yeah, just really quick to clarify, we did have four founding members. There are now three members of the Safety Justice League, which is Jason Maldonado, myself, and Abby Ferry. The reason that we founded Safety Justice League is we wanted to give a voice to the voiceless. There's a lot of people out there that are pretty lonely in their safety roles, and we wanted to make sure that for one, that they would have a voice, that they could express their issues, express their frustrations, but at the same time, they would have a podcast that they could listen to that was kind of upbeat, fun like this one, and it would give them an opportunity to just kind of feel like they were just hanging out with some friends and talking about safety, just like you would do, at a conference when you got off of a conference and you went to the bar afterwards. And it's just you and your safety friends, joking around about safety issues, hanging out. And so it was to try to give that uh, that relationship building, and to really start to try to make some changes in safety as a whole. Get away from this goal zero mentality and get more into a people over everything mentality, where it's more about the people than it's about anything else. And so we utilize a lot of social media. We utilized our podcast. We try to find really interesting guests to be on the podcast. And the funny part is we've really been grabbing guests that aren't in the safety realm, but they may have something to do with safety that they don't realize that they did. I had the opportunity of interviewing Lila Smith, and it was really cool because she's an actress. She has communication teachings and things like that. And so having a chance to talk to her about stage safety, because she used to be a stage manager, and having to talk to her a little bit about the safety of being on the stage, talking to Barbie the welder about welding safety, and have her, jokingly, like most welders would do, like, there's no room for safety in this shop. There's so many fun things that can be done to make safety more fun, but also to make those changes that we need to start seeing.
And what about the social media safety minute? What's that all about?
When I first started creating content, I wanted to do it differently than most people that were doing it in safety. You have a lot of really cool content creators on LinkedIn and the other sites. And what I wanted to do, because what I've always done in my career is tried to simplify something that may be difficult to understand by telling stories, by telling more simple explanations of that safety thought process. So, somebody could spend 15 minutes talking about ladder safety. I want to get that into a minute. So I want to talk about how awkward it is to look when you're actually climbing a ladder with 3 points of contact. What does that look like? Because it's the most awkward thing in the world when somebody actually does it, maintaining 3 points of contact at all time. It's not like we normally see people climb ladders. So try to grab that information, simplify it, put it down into a quick minute long or less, if you can do it, type of just training, so, and get people who aren't thinking about safety all the time to have a little bit better understanding about safety, but also to give somebody a good chance to take that and run with it in their own companies, so that they can simplify their messaging, to because when people understand, they tend to follow a lot better than when they don't understand. And so that's kind of how it came about. And then I just started doing that, and then we got a created a little podcast for Social Media Safety Minute with Jason Lucas. That's powered by the Safety Justice League podcast. It's what we call an SJL short on the regular one. So those things run about 2 minutes because of the opening and the closing and the music and all the legalese that happens at the end. But it's still about a minute of content for the standpoint of the actual message.
So, hearing you speak about just the need to really digest in fun and simplified ways, I can hear your passion. So, when it comes to someone entering the safety field, what tips do you have for new safety professionals, and what are maybe some common missteps you've seen new professionals take when entering the safety profession?
First thing first, before when a safety professional is joining into this field, the first thing they need to do is focus on the relationships. You can't If you don't build relationships with the workers, one, you're not going to understand what they do. Two, you're not really going to care about them the way you would care about them if you had a relationship with them, a friendship with them. And I know most safety people come in a management role, and it's very difficult to maintain that friendship level relationship. But the relationship I'm talking about is where somebody would feel comfortable bringing issues to you. One of the biggest missteps that a lot of new safety pros take is the first thing they do is they go to the policies and procedures, and they just digest everything about it because they want to know. Because if they're out there and they get questioned, they want to make sure that they know that policy and procedure better than the worker does, so that when they can point out what they're doing wrong. Well, the problem that creates a lot of the time is you might have a 25-year veteran millwright who's been doing this his entire career. He knows more about millwrighting than you will ever know, and then you're going to go and tell him why what he's doing and has been doing for 25 years is wrong. So the suggestion that I make to that type of thing, and maybe he is doing it in an unsafe way, maybe there is a safer way to do that, but you can always flip that a little bit by going up to that same millwright and saying, hey, I don't know anything about millwrighting. Why do you do it that way? And let that millwright explain why he or she does it the way that they do it. And then you can get into, because when workers have been doing it, especially for 25 years, they love talking about it if you're willing to take the time to listen. So utilize the 2 ears and the one mouth principle. Listen twice as much as you talk, and you'll build those relationships, and then people will bring you the information that you need to make that the safest that it possibly can be.
I have to say, I'm a fan of conversation over criticism myself.
Oh, absolutely. Great way to put it. Great way to put that for sure.
And so I think a lot of what you just said, I saw it reflected in your book, which you recently published, 8 Habits of an Impactful Safety Pro. And for people out there who are viewing this, I am going to pull up just a jazzy little PowerPoint slide I put together that,
Nice.
shows the 8 habits that you did lay out within this book. But just want to hear, what was your motivation behind writing this? And for those who I encourage everyone out there to read it. I did
Yeah.
it. It's great. But what do you want them to walk away from it with?
Well, the reason I wrote it honestly was the rest of the Safety Justice League were either authors or they were becoming authors. They were writing their books. And then Abby Ferry challenged me because James Altucher had put together a 30-day challenge, write a book in 30 days, but write it on habits. And it was like, oh, well, this is a really cool idea because I do have habits. I think we all do, but how to get those things into book form is just taking the time to actually write down your thoughts. And so the idea was to create a book where people could go and see what I've used to be impactful and build relationships with others. So when we talk about the 8 habits, the funny thing is I used to just call a lot of these my mottos. They were the mottos that I had that anybody who worked under me in safety would also have to get into their DNA as well. And the mottos, I mean, there's 8 of these obviously, but in the mottos for me, it was just really simple. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. So be kind, uh, be present, focus on what matters. And then it was like, you know, I'm not, coach, don't cop. So don't be a safety cop. You want to coach people up. And then the last one was I'm nice until nice don't work. And the idea of that really came from that movie Roadhouse, where Dalton, which is played by Patrick Swayze, tells them be nice, and then he's like, and if they keep doing it, be nice, and then be nice until nice don't work. So and I know that that's not grammar, good grammar, but it just sounds better than saying be nice until nice isn't working any longer. So you want to say be nice until nice don't work. But the idea was that was just to really focus on the relationship aspects. So the habits, they morphed into the habits that I didn't even realize that I was doing differently than other people. And then the idea of each chapter was to kind of find a way to take that habit home with you. Now, not from a standpoint of I'm trying to monitor safety of people at home, because I don't think that that's our role. We should care about the safety of our workers when they're working at home. We should give them tips on how they could do it safely, but it's not our job to police how they work outside of the workplace, because that's what we should be managing. But it's important also so that the idea of take it home with you tips was things that I do with my family that are similar, and finding ways to maybe build those habits for others when they're at home with their family. So that was the reasoning it came about, and that's kind of my mindset towards it a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciated the take it home tip, like the be present, and even, I chuckled at the part where you talked about having seen one of your sons do more ollies than
Yes.
you might have
Yes.
ever intended to see in your life. And you know, finding it within yourself to say, if I can give this energy and investment and positivity to the people I work with, that's something that, I found it impactful, uh,
Thank you.
to take that home with you. I do want to joke. So, one of the things that stood out to me was the term corporate seagull. You
Oh,
mind sharing? You mind
sure.
sharing with listeners what a corporate seagull is in the safety world?
Yeah, a corporate seagull is a corporate seagull is a person who visits from a corporate office to a local site, and they come in and they just tear apart the program, everything they're doing. There's not really much complimentary. There's not really much relationship building. So basically, just like a seagull, they come in and they crap all over everything everybody's doing, and then they fly back home to their little office and don't spend any time, cleaning up the crap that they just crapped everywhere. And so, the idea is don't be a corporate seagull. Take that time to actually talk to people, see how they're doing. I don't leave one of my sites after I perform an inspection, and because I try not to use that word audit because there's such a negative connotation to the word audit. But when I go and do a little visit or an inspection, um, one of the first things that I do, and I just spend a lot of time just hanging out and talking to the guys while they're doing their work, and if I see little things, I'll point them out. But then I sit with management on site and we discuss all the positives and all the negatives that may have opportunities for improvement that we may have seen while we were doing the little walk around. And really, that for me, that's really important because what you don't want to happen is you don't want to fly away from there and not give them a heads up, and then you issue some report about everything that you found to somebody in even higher management, and then that person in higher management calls that local site and they're like, just jumping all over them for stuff that they weren't even aware that you had found, and they didn't have any prep work, they didn't have time to correct it, they didn't have time. So much better to be able to when that call does come, because the report's going to go in, but when that call comes, if you're able to tell that corporate person, just, hey, yeah, Jason talked to me about those things, let me tell you what we've already done to correct them, and then they're a step ahead, and everybody looks good and actual positive change is happening.
Yes, it's a teamwork and collaboration instead of
Sure.
it being something where you're adversaries. So I appreciate that approach. People, woo, power to the people.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you think about, all you've learned and these habits that, you have developed to be an impactful safety professional, looking towards the future of the safety profession, is there a major change or just direction you'd like to see the safety go in versus where it might be currently?
Yeah, I first, the idea of a goal zero, and don't get me wrong. I probably have never said it this way on all of the podcasts when I talk against goal zero. But first and foremost, the idea behind goal zero was a good idea from the standpoint of we don't want anybody getting hurt. And so that we want zero injuries, we want every person to go home the way that they came. And I get that mentality. And I think that mentality can be utilized in a better way than creating a goal of zero. The problem with the goal of zero is it creates fear-based work. So people are so scared to be the one that's going to take that number from zero to something else that they won't even report things that potentially could have gotten them a lot of hurt. So near misses kind of go down, behavior-based safety observations go down. Just general conversation with safety won't really discuss, or management won't really discuss the issues that they're facing on a pre-evaluation aspect. And then when somebody gets hurt, there's a lot of potential that they're going to walk away without letting anybody know, because they don't want to be that employee who ruined the pizza party. They don't want to be the employee that ruined the zero number that everybody was looking for. Phil LeDuc wrote an amazing book called blood in my pocket is blood on your hands. And the idea was, the idea of blood in my pocket is I cut a finger off and I just put it in my pocket and I walk away so that nobody knows. And, so that it's not a big deal. So it doesn't affect the quote unquote goal zero culture that we have here. So for me, I think that if we create more of a people over everything, where it's more important to worry about the value of the people than a value of a number or a KPI or a bonus that's attached to a number. You know, we fall in love with numbers when money's attached to it, and it's an unhealthy relationship with numbers that doesn't even need to be there. So for me, that's the biggest change, is really just relationship building, people over everything, and getting out of this goal zero mindset, and focusing more on the potential of what could happen on the front end instead of being reactive on the back end.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for your time and your insight. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you, and appreciation out there to anyone who took time to listen or view this today, and hope you gained something from it, and hope you tune in for the next episode. Thanks,
Thanks for having
Jason.
me. Thank you so much for having me.